Thank you for joining me today. Today I want to share with you some of the things that I love. I'm going to be sharing some castles with you that we toured or stayed at during our anniversary trip. I also want to share a recipe for a lavender hot chocolate, so keep watching to the end of the video. And then a very special piece of china that I found that has a special meaning to me. So I hope you enjoy. So when we stayed in a lovely Airbnb hosted in Derbyshire, England, our hostess told us about Haddon Hall. Now we had planned to go to the Chatsworth House and do a tour there that's been featured in several movies, including Pride and Prejudice. Beautiful grounds there. But they were already getting ready for Christmas at the time we were there. So she told us instead about Haddon Hall, which is just minutes from the Chatsworth estate and actually older than the Chatsworth estate. And we had a wonderful time there. Beautiful. I just loved the old tapestries, the pictures, the artwork. This was a lovely room, and this actually was featured in a Pride and Prejudice movie. Look at the seats here. They're different sizes based on how tall a person was. I found that so interesting. But yeah, just the antiquity, the ingenuity. Look at how wide this entrance was. Just the fortification. It had been under siege several times throughout the history. And this is actually an estate that the family still lives in part of. Part of it you can tour, but then they have a private part as well. But just gorgeous views, and we probably spent probably a couple of hours here. We did a tour with a guide, and then you were just free to walk about and explore. So this was Haddon Hall. Technically, this isn't considered a castle. It would be listed in the registry right under a castle as a manor home. But for all intents and purposes, for me, it seemed just like a castle. Now I'm going to jump into a mom's thrifting day out that we did after I returned from England. We were in Jamestown in an antique/thrift store. I was browsing through the china and I came across this beautiful blue and white little dish, and I flipped it over, and lo and behold, it said Haddon Hall, made in England. I just could not believe it. This is a little different angle, but I wanted you to see this exact courtyard scene that is on the plate. So here is my new piece of china, the Haddon Hall scene. They had 3 of these in the antique store, but they were priced at $12.50 each. And I didn't necessarily need any of them, but because it had such significance, I purchased one, and it will be a memento for me. I think it would be lovely. You could put jewelry in it, as a little, oh, there is my hot chocolate timer. You could put jewelry in it as a little jewelry tray. I could put nuts in it to have just a little dish of nuts to munch on throughout the day. There's so many uses for this. It could be in a bathroom with soap in it, but I absolutely love it, and I'm glad that I went ahead and splurged on it. If you know me at all, then you know I love chocolate. Fudge is definitely a weakness, and while we were in Bath, we stumbled across this fudge shop, and so we went in and had to try some. Their special that day was like an apple crumble, which doesn't seem very fudge-like, but it was delicious. We had the privilege of staying in 2 castles while we were in Scotland. The Dalhousie Castle, we had a suite of rooms in this tower. There was a little hallway with a bathroom, then this long hallway. You could look up and see part of the tower through the skylight that led to this suite room. And then we had dinner in the dungeon, quote unquote, which was quite an experience. We also stayed at the Melville Castle, which is not far from the Dalhousie Castle. In Oxford, we were roaming the streets and happened upon the oldest known coffee house in England. I will try to insert a date here of when it originated, but we had a lovely lunch here. Ironically, I didn't get coffee. I ended up getting a lavender tea. We laugh because it says it soothes disorders of the nervous system, and my husband's driving on the opposite side of the road did warrant some nerves that were a little frazzled, but we had a lovely time here. I highly recommend it.
Steak first.
Okay, now for the homemade lavender white hot chocolate. I'm going to begin by making some homemade whipped cream. I didn't have any whipping cream, so I used a cup of our cow cream and a cup of our cow milk, and then I added in a teaspoon of vanilla and half a cup of powdered sugar, and whipped this up in my KitchenAid mixer. It didn't turn out really stiff. Maybe if I had had the regular whipping cream it would have been, but it was still delicious nonetheless. For the hot chocolate, I used 2 cups of our fresh cow's milk. I'm sure you could use any milk of your choice. You put that in a boiler on the stove with 3/4 teaspoon of lavender and let that simmer for 15 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then I strained the lavender off so that you don't have the lavender pieces or pods. And then you mix in 1/4 cup of white chocolate chips. I use Ghirardelli, and stir that in until it's all melted. I actually added a little bit of French brew coffee, and that made it kind of a coffee hot chocolate, and then added the homemade whipped cream and just garnished it with the lavender on top. Moment of truth. That's good. Can definitely taste the lavender. I probably put a little bit more than it called for, but it tastes like something you would get at a coffee shop. Very gourmet, creamy, very delicious, and I like the little bit of coffee added into it. Very good.